Dímelo, mi gente. What's up? It's your boy Gus from Gus Villa Jewelry, here to talk about the latest news in the watch world. The once again collab between the Swatch Group, aka Swatch, and Blancpain's 50 Fathoms, probably one of the most iconic dive watches of all time. They have since released 5 watches to commemorate the 5 oceans in the world, and it's taking the watch world by storm. I don't know why they did it again. Let's talk about it. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. Stay tuned to the very end because I'm also going to give you some real controversial takes. See if you like it or not, and if you have one on your wrist already, take it off, man. Don't be a fool, loser. Not just kidding.
Gus Villa Jewelry.
So if you guys haven't heard yet, Swatch and Blancpain, which of course the Swatch Group owns Blancpain, have done a collaboration. You may have heard also of a previous collaboration with Swatch doing a collab with Omega and doing the moon watches and doing a cheap version of them, which is essentially what Swatches are all about. Cheap, fun watches that anybody could wear. They grabbed Omega, another one of the brands that they own, and created a moon watch / planet on the moon. They did all these planets and different watches. And last year that took the watch world by storm. It was crazy. When I first heard about the project, I thought it was something that was really refreshing because no one had ever done it. If you know anything about watches in the watch world, it's a very cookie cutter, very pinky up when you drink your tea type of world. Nobody likes to do collabs. You kind of stick to your own. Everything is a purist and everything has to be the way it was in 1937 and all this crap. There's no fun in it, really. There's nobody injecting any sort of life in it. So when I first heard about Swatch joining up with Omega to make these moon watches with inspiration based on the 12 planets, I was like, this is dope. And of course, all the hype beasts jumped on there and they wanted the watch, and it was only like $200. So you saw everybody stomping on each other at the malls trying to get this crap. A year later, there's still some sort of hype around it, but it's kind of died down. It really just boiled down to it being kind of a cheap watch. I thought it was cool the first time. I thought, hey man, if you're out there not necessarily wanting to spend $6,000-$7,000 on a real moon watch, go out there, spend $200 and it's just as good. It's a beautiful, inspired watch, and at the end of the day, it should be readily available. But of course, with supply and demand, they weren't able to get it out as fast, so the secondhand market dealers started bumping up the prices insane for what is known as a $200 cheap Swatch. I even saw them on Chrono 24 for up to $1,000, which is just crazy. But it goes to show how much there is a crave in the market for something fresh, something cool. Now, intro, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. If you guys aren't familiar, it is what is known to the watch world as the first true diver's watch. Now, I know a lot of people think that the Submariner or even the Omega Mariner, which was made in 1932, was the first dive watch, but it wasn't. The Rolex Submariner was developed in 1953 and wasn't released until 1954. Cue the Blancpain. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms, it was actually released in 1953, so you can consider it the true first dive watch. And it was the true first dive watch because it came with the rotating bezel to let the divers know exactly how much oxygen was left in their tank. Plus, it had the radio loom, and it also had a depth meter of 100 meters. So it was known as the first true dive watch. Now, it's iconic. Of course, it's a 100% iconic watch because it was the first to ever do it. It was created by Bob Molibier in 1953. He sketched out the idea and brought it to different watch brands, and none of them really wanted to do anything except for Blancpain. The CEO and them collaborated together and they came out with very first dive watch. It had everything that a dive team needed to do to go deep into the ocean and of course survive these really, really harsh conditions. For years, other watch companies would mimic the 50 Fathoms. Of course, there's Rolex Submariner, which had the patented push-down crown, which became even more iconic, but the 50 Fathoms stayed true to itself. You could still use it as a dive watch to this very day. So you can't talk about dive watches without talking about the 50 Fathoms. You just can't. It is just as iconic as the Submariner. It may not have the popularity or the demand, but you can't mention dive watches without saying it. It truly is one of the pioneers of this industry. Now dive watches are everywhere. The list goes on. And now in 2023, Swatch owns Blancpain and they did this collab once again. Now I have no problem with the collab itself. I have a problem with how much Swatch is capitalizing on this collab world. I get it. The very first time you do something, it is very, very cool. And maybe the Moon watch that was released last year was very, very profitable. Let's just talk about it from a business standpoint. But from a standpoint of a watch enthusiast who loves the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, now tying it with Swatch, even though Swatch owns Blancpain, is kind of cheapening the brand. And it's starting to become a little gimmicky. It's something that every other year, one of their watch brands that they own might come with one of their iconic watches, do another collab, and hype up the market. Like, it's okay for you to have done it one time, but to do it over and over and over again, it's kind of getting boring. The first time around, I was cool with it. This time around, it's kind of cool, but am I gonna go out there and now buy it at the price point that they want, which is around $400 to $500? That's kind of crazy for a Swatch. Swatches are supposed to be fun. Blancpains are supposed to be expensive. The fusion of those two worlds doesn't make the Swatch that much more expensive. It just has the branding and kind of the inspiration, but $500 for one of these watches? That's kind of crazy. And here's the worst part. Here's the part that I hate. The watch is inspired by things that are cool. For instance, it has 5 versions, and each one of those are inspired by one of the oceans in the world. So you have the Arctic, you have the Indian Ocean, you have the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific. I mean, that's so incredibly well thought out and so cool. And the designs match the type of animals that are found in the depths of that ocean. How ridiculously cool is that? I mean, that is something that someone really thought out. And for a watch geek, it tickles our little like, to be honest with you, it does all the right things, but it's still kind of going with the gimmicky, let's fuse these two worlds together. Now, fusions of brands are found everywhere. You got the Adidas Gucci mix or the Balenciaga Gucci collab, and in Supreme this and Supreme that. And I get that it's a fresh way of reintroducing a product to maybe people or a demographic that didn't necessarily know that it was around. But the first time is cool. The second time, it's kind of like you're digging in our pockets. And it's not that I don't like the watch, because it looks kind of cool. Of course, it's a 50 Fathoms inspired design, and the 50 Fathoms is a beautiful watch, but you're kind of cheapening Blancpain. I don't want to walk around as a 50 Fathoms owner and know that there's a $500 knockoff, or not really a knockoff because it's technically the same brand, but a version of it that's made out of plastic, that doesn't have the right things for the price point. Now, I get it. I am sounding like a total watch snob. Can you really blame me? It's the same thing. You're cheapening a brand. There is a clear difference why in the United States there's a Hyundai, and then the brand Genesis has branched off from that and doesn't really want to be known as the same, because you're cheapening one to get to the other. Consider the fact that people who have a Blancpain save thousands of dollars, or they are making an effort, spending big time money. Imagine if you could just buy a cheaper version of it for $500. That's number one. Number two, you already did it. You already fused the two worlds to create a cheaper version of there out there, and that worked. Why keep doing it? Why are you going out there? What next thing that we know, you're gonna have a glass shoe Swatch collab? Like where does it stop? In 2 years from now, you're gonna have a Harry Winston Swatch. Like, come on. A Swatch owns Harry Winston, but doesn't mean you need a collab. That's crazy, guys. Enough. Stop with the collabs. Like, we had the Moon watch. That was cool. You're just doing it to dig into our pockets. And then the last point, of course, is it's a $500 Swatch. Papo, come on. That's crazy. Like, a Swatch is 20 beans, bro. 50 beans at best. 120, and like the shit better do the hula hoo, and it better do something crazy. But for $500 for a plastic Swatch, just because it says Blancpain and it kind of looks like a 50 Fathoms, that's kind of wild. Now, the hype beasts are gonna kill me in the comments. Oh, Gus, don't be such a snob. But the reality is, bro, we're kind of over it. I understand the world is evolving. I don't want to be that baseball fan who says they shouldn't speed up the game, that it's perfectly fine. I get that. I want a new infusion of new products and new ideas into the watch world, because it does become very stale and very brittle and very just bleh. And all these young people that could be into watches now don't really get into it because the price points are too high or whatever. So I get that aspect of it, but stay true to it. It's gimmicky. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. That's just my take on it, and let me know if you think it's true or not. Drop a comment down below. Let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm right, and if you're gonna go out there and spend $500 for a freaking Swatch watch. Come on, bro. Don't be a fool. Till next time, I'll catch you guys later. Love you. Subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time. Bye.